Well, hello everybody, and it's Chris from HHN.com, another exciting episode of Topher's Log. Forgive me, I've tried to shoot this video a couple times already. It's another exciting episode of Topher's Log. If you don't know what Topher's Log is, you can go back and rewatch the first episode. It's just me kind of going old school, getting on camera and sort of talking a little bit about the rumors, speculation, the chatter, what is going on, what people are talking about Halloween Horror Nights 29, leading into Halloween Horror Nights 29, of course. And I think this week is a very good week to maybe perhaps send in the Klowns, because the Killer Klowns, as a house rumor for Halloween Horror Nights 29, started way back last year, actually, before Halloween Horror Nights 28 even ended. And sort of the line of thinking there was that perhaps Killer Klowns from Outer Space was given the trick-or-treat treatment, which is they sort of did the scare zone to sort of see what the fan reaction was, to gauge how audiences would have taken to the property being at the event, because both Trick or Treat and Killer Klowns are actually kind of similar in a way, because they're both, cult horror films. Trick or Treat is obviously a little bit more well known than Killer Klowns, but they're both sort of in that same cult horror film status. And with Trick or Treat, like I said, way back with the Scare Zone, I think a lot of people probably were aware of what Sam looked like, but they might not have actually seen or heard of the movie Trick or Treat. And I think it's kind of the same thing for Killer Klowns. People might have seen, what the clowns from the movie look like, but not necessarily have seen the film or know what the film is about, or that the clowns are like aliens or anything like that. They might not know the storyline for Killer Klowns, but they might have seen what the clowns look like. So they are kind of similar in that way. I don't know if doing the Scare Zone was a dry run to see if they were going to do a house. I'll tell you this, like, even if the fans, or not fans, but because, I mean, fans, they want Killer Klowns anyway. What I'm talking about is, the average person, the average guest who goes to Halloween Horror Nights. I don't think it would have mattered if they didn't take to the Scare Zone, because I think Killer Klowns would have inevitably come to the event anyway, regardless of how people felt about the Scare Zone, because it is one of those properties that they've wanted to do for quite some time. So it would not, I would not be surprised if it might have delayed it. Perhaps instead of them doing it this year, maybe they would have done it a couple years down the road from now, to sort of separate the Scare Zone from the house. So I don't think that would have mattered at all for Killer Klowns, or for Trick or Treat for that matter, even though I think, that really was sort of a dry run to see if fans would sort of, or not fans, I keep saying fans, but, normal guests would have taken to the property anyway. And of course, the Trick or Treat Scare Zone was, massively popular. The Killer Clown Scare Zone, I don't think had the impact that they were looking for in terms of guest, gauging guest reaction to the property. It was popular. It did, it's not like it was a forgotten Scare Zone. It was very popular. It was very competitive for Scare Zone of the Year last year. Of course, all the bloggers and people like that, they love the Scare Zone. It was a very popular Scare Zone, but I don't think that it really had the impact that they were looking for. I think they wanted something a little bit more. But to be honest with you, the space that they used Killer Klowns in, I don't think did it a whole lot of favors. What sold that Scare Zone, what made that Scare Zone what it was, were the performers, the people inside those awesome Killer Klowns costumes. Those things are fantastic. Probably another reason why I think they would have done the house anyway. Maybe the Scare Zone was just a dry run to see if they can pull off the costumes properly, and they did. The costumes were dead on. They were very well done, very well made, and you could also reuse those costumes inside a house. Now, obviously, a house they would have to make more, more than what they had for the Scare Zone, but nevertheless, they've done it already. They know, the ins and outs of doing those costumes, so so they won't have any problems there. I am not the biggest Killer Klowns from Outer Space fan. I've said that last year. I did see the film for the first time way back in high school. I was not pressured, but sort of talked into seeing the film by a bunch of friends. They were like, "Oh, you got to see this movie. It's amazing." It's okay. I'm not hating on it or whatever, but it is that sort of 80s cheesy goodness that people love, especially nowadays. It's got that nostalgia factor going for it as well. But I am not like the biggest, Killer Klowns fan. I've seen the film only about a handful of times. I revisited it a couple times over the years, and most recently last year for the scare zone. But almost like what I said with Trick or Treat, which again I get lambasted for a lot. I'm not the biggest Trick or Treat fan out there. I do like the character of Sam, but I'm not the biggest fan of the movie itself. It is what it is. But the movie lends itself for me, like there's stuff in the film and for like Trick or Treat that I wanted to see represented inside a house. I wanted to see how they would do certain scenes from the film. Same thing with Killer Klowns. There's a lot of stuff from the film that I want to see how they do inside of a house that they just couldn't do or couldn't possibly pull off, say in a scare zone. There's a lot of potential from scenes from the movie that I really want to see how they do inside a house. I want to see the inside of the spaceship. I want to see the whole jail scene. I think that would be really fun. The bathroom scene with the little popcorn monsters coming out. There are there's a lot of potential for me for stuff inside of Killer Klowns house. So while I'm not the biggest fan of the film, I do, I would like to see the property come as a house. I'm not going to say yes or no if the property is coming this year. I would say that the chances of it coming are very high. But that could change. It is still early, so who knows? Anything is possible, especially this year. Where, like I've said before in previous episodes, I've sort of, I haven't shut the little birdies off that talk to me completely. I do hear little bits and pieces, here and there. It's this year's been a lot more fun for me because I don't have the vast direct knowledge that I usually have. It's just me getting little drabs and drips of information if I ask for it, to sort of come at me. But I don't know a whole lot about what's going on, but there are some things that I do know. And in terms of Killer Klowns, if it comes or not comes, it's another one of those where I'd be kind of indifferent to. Like, there's stuff that I want to see done from the film inside a house, but I also wouldn't be sad if it didn't come either. Because we just had it. And the whole like scare zone into a house thing, it's been done before. It's not like, Trick or Treat or Killer Klowns was like the first, the first scare zone to be turned into a house. It has happened before. Saws and Steam is probably that's the big one. That was a scare zone first and then turned into a house later on. Which the house I love the Saws and Steam house. I love that house. Last house in the Jaws queue. Before the Jaws building went away for the boy wizard. But yeah, so not the first time that's happened. It probably will not be the last time that it happens either. There'll probably be other scare zones that they turn into house extravaganzas in the future. But nevertheless, Killer Klowns from Outer Space, who knows? Like I said, I'm not sure that the scare zone really had that big of an impact. I think they wanted a little bit more of an impact from guests than what they actually got. Not that it wasn't popular; it was very popular, but I think they just wanted more out of it. And like I said, the space really was not conducive for doing a scares. I really hope that they keep Fast and the Furious. Wishful thinking, but I hope that they keep Fast and the Furious closed. They could put stuff back over in San Francisco, but I probably wouldn't bet my chips on that one. But it is what it is. But anyway, guys, that's it for me this week. I'll be back next week with perhaps a special episode of Topher's Log. We'll see how it goes, depending on if there's some crazy shenanigans that goes on this week or not. But there might be a very special episode next week. So until then, I will see you guys next week.